Reading with your kids.
Hola, niho, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted, so very honored, and so wicked happy that you're joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, wherever you find your podcasts. We have two wonderful guests for you today. First, Alexandra Trinecka is joining us from Poland to celebrate Bunky and the Bunky Princess. And then filmmaker Charisse Zerunian will be here to tell us all about her film, 1 + 1 is 2. Before we invite our guest into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by the books by Judy Weigel. We're going to be looking at magical words today. Magical words is based on respect and positive empowerment of others. Ms. Wiggles teaches her students that to be happy, one needs to love and honor oneself first, and then extend that to others. She inspires the kids to live their life by the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. She does this task by her example and the use of magical words. You're going to love the magic that the books by Judy Weigel can bring into the lives of your kids. Check them out today. In addition to magical words, Judy has written Dandelion and also Lisa and Her Pajamas. They're available on Amazon.com. We also want to let you know that this episode of the podcast is brought to you by Astro, the Lonely Airplane by Julie Whitney. Now ready to take your kids off on a journey of adventure and hope. Astro, the Lonely Airplane. It was written by Julie Whitney, and it is truly a labor of love. It was written after her husband lost his job as a pilot during the pandemic. This rhyming picture book for kids ages 3 to 10 teaches them about flying, math, geography, overcoming difficult situations, and most of all, it teaches them to have hope. Astro the Lonely Airplane comes with a 2-page glossary and a 3-minute video of Captain Dan giving kids a tour of the real Astro. You can get your copy today at Amazon, or you can go to your local bookstore and say, hey, do you have Astro the Lonely Airplane by Julie Whitney? You don't? Could you get it for me? I bet you they'll have it there in a day or two. Check it out today. You're going to love to add this to your family library. Astro, the Lonely Airplane by Julie Whitney. Joining us right now from Lublin in the nation of Poland. Our guest is here to celebrate her middle grade novel. It's called Bunky and the Bunky Princess. Please welcome to the show, Alexandra Trinecka. Hey, Alexandra, how are you?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm really excited to have you tell us all about Bunky and the Bunky Princess, please.
Thank you so much. So Bunky and the Bunky Princess are here next to me as mascots, but you will be able to encounter them in the novel as well. I am honored to introduce my novel to all the readers, and this is a story mainly about Bunky, who is waiting for Christmas. He has a dream. He hopes that it will come true. And there's another layer of this story because within the novel, Bunky is writing a novel himself. And in his novel, the readers will encounter the Bunky Princess. So in Bunky's novel, he imagines himself as the hero and he imagines the Bunky Princess. And then Christmas arrives in Bunky's land, and it turns out that he has a very important task in front of him, and then he will really have to become this special hero about whom he was writing. And the question is it possible to connect the literary realm with our world? Is the Bunky Princess real? And will Bunky be able to encounter her?
Wow, this is neat. Like a story within a story within a story.
Yes, absolutely. So there are some intertextual layers. It's a story within a story, and it's a story that combines the realm of imagination, literature, and reality. And I think that's all that we are looking at in our world. We try to see our world through the prism of dreams, literature, and we try to connect it, combine it. So I wanted to explore this in my novel.
Yeah. Hey, was there anything in particular that inspired this book?
Thank you so much. So actually, of course, reality inspired it to some extent because the characters in the novel are very close to my heart. They are, to some extent, they are connected with my family, with my friends, and also the very character of Bunky is inspired by the real life story about my trip to the British Museum, and on the way back there was this beautiful mascot of the Blue Hippo. It wasn't the Bunky who is with me yet, but it was a Blue Hippo, a mascot, and what was quite interesting about this mascot was that he had such a strange face expression, like partly sad, partly happy, partly angry. And I thought that this is so natural because this is as we are in our daily life. We are not always happy, but we have different emotions. And I thought that I would like to explore this face expression, this Blue Hippo mascot in my tale. And then Bunky was born. Bunky came to life, and here he is with us. So he is this kind of imperfect hero in a sense that he's guided by different kinds of emotions, sometimes bad, sometimes good, like every person, but he has the greatest task to be the hero of ordinary life, daily life, and I wanted to create such a hero that would be relatable. Every reader could find something from, this would be a very relatable character, so everybody could somehow find some similarities in Bunky.
Yeah. You know, we've talked a lot on the podcast about helping little kids kind of identify their emotions, and that's the first step in helping them learn how to deal with them. But I don't think we've explored the idea that kids, as they're growing, they're still going to need help because our emotions change. They become more complex with as our relationships become more complex. So I think that this discussion about emotions and about how we handle emotions and how we identify emotions, I think it should be an ongoing discussion that we have with our kids.
Absolutely, yes, and I agree 100%. Thank you so much for bringing up this issue because I also think it's very vital. I see that we are surrounded by many characters who have all kinds of, they are like perfect. And I wanted to explore these imperfections in my character and also somehow reassure the youngest readers that it is okay to be a little grumpy sometimes, to have a bad day, to have some doubts about life.
Hey, Alexandra, what kind of imperfections did you have to struggle with and learn how to be comfortable with?
Thank you so much. So I think that I have something like Bunky because we are sort of connected. Bunky, it's natural for authors to implement a part of themselves in the story. So Bunky, he always strives to be perfect. That's terrible because he really struggles with it so badly. It always goes wrong. He sort of feels like he cannot do anything right, and actually he's doing a lot in a very good way. But this sense of being perfect, this sense of just trying to be this noble-hearted figure is overwhelming. Like his dreams are not really coming true. When he struggles with some tasks, he wanted to impress his friends, didn't go the right way in the beginning. So he thinks that it's all about him, and actually he's doing really well.
Interesting. We become perfect. We perfect ourselves when we learn to embrace our imperfections.
Yes, and that's what I wanted to show my youngest readers, to somehow reassure them, because I know, I've been a child, and even being an adult, I feel like that too, like there's so much tension, and being imperfect, but acknowledging it, this just, I think that every day of life is a process of growing, developing. It never ends, actually. It lasts through childhood, then teenagers, and then adulthood. Just the same, we have different stages. It's all about growing. We are never perfect, but thanks to this, we are human. And I realize that these imperfections allow Bunky to experience all kinds of genuine emotions, they allow him to be really genuine, like doing everything from his heart. And that's what I wanted to address, because I was really missing a hero that would be that relatable.
Yeah, yeah. Did you always imagine that you would be a children's author?
Thank you so much. Well, I always dreamt about becoming an author. I dreamt since I was 4 years old. And actually, when I was 4 years old, I wrote my first novel. It was a story about a hedgehog who had to carry an apple on his back, but could not get rid of the apple because it got stuck. And then his friends helped him, and he discovered the power of friendship. So this was when I was 4, and I wrote it in a big white notebook. And since then, I was dreaming about becoming a writer, because somehow writing helps me to explore reality, make sense of it, also grow as a person. I think that discovering literary characters helps us to somehow gain confidence and gain the vision of ourselves, how we want to be.
You know, we've talked here on the podcast a lot about encouraging our kids to visualize themselves doing different things. And you were mentioning that writing is a great way for you to process what's going on in life. And I think writing is also a great way to help our kids visualize what it is that they want to do in their lives and what kind of things they want to turn into reality in their lives.
Yes, it's true. And I also explore it in Banki and the Worms, because there is a moment when Banki visualizes himself in his novel as the hero. Let's say as the hero. Of course, it's a big vision, but he sees himself as the hero, and he explores himself as the hero. And then it turns out that something happens in his life during Christmas, in his actual life, that he really has to gather his strength and become this hero. And then he was writing about it for such a long time. He was thinking about it for so long that it becomes his reality, and he knows how to deal with it. He truly believes that he's capable of becoming a hero. He's capable of making his dream come true.
You know, you're talking about Bunky finding the strength to, in his imperfections, to become a hero.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we're seeing right now, you know, we mentioned that you're in Poland, and you were sharing with me that you're right on the border with Ukraine. And one of the things that we are seeing right now is that you and your neighbors are really becoming heroes, and that you're welcoming millions of people fleeing the invasion of Ukraine into your nation, and in some cases into your homes. What's that like for you? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it is something that, you know, it's happening in the world. We're praying that the peace will come to the land. But can you just share with us a little bit about the kind of the spirit of welcome that you and your neighbors are sharing?
Thank you so much. So thank you so much. So first of all, of course, I'm very tiny in the whole process. Yeah. And for all of us, it's just an unprecedented situation. It's something I thought I could imagine everything. I have a great imagination, but it's something I still can't imagine. Even if it's happening, I can't imagine it's happening. I think we are all like sort of sleepwalking, wondering what's really happening. And then, what we are doing, for example, I am at university, so we are organizing help at the university, and with all my colleagues, we are involved in that, and just everybody tries to their best, do what they can. It's either from offering some help in terms of household equipment, everything is needed, or just hosting somebody. The point is that we understand how our neighbors feel, because we have a historical past, and it's for us it's very easy to understand them in this situation. And of course, it's so unimaginable and so unprecedented, so painful.
Yeah, you know, I know that there are people who are listening who are parents, and their kids are hearing about this, and they don't know how to respond. But I think as our kids are asking us, how in the world can this happen? How can this evil happen? And we don't know. You know, there's no answer. But I think the thing that we can share with our kids is that in the midst of this terrible evil, there are these so many more acts of kindness and love that are going on. And I think that's where we can give our kids hope, is just pointing to the people, to you and your neighbors, that you're stepping up and you're welcoming and embracing these people who are fleeing.
Also, I think that kindness is always the only path that would work in such situations. Like we need to somehow, as I said, there is this kindness and everything that happens here. It's like creating this circle in which we sort of like stay together and try to create some, at least a feeling of a normal reality.
Well, we're praying for you, and we're praying that peace will come to your area soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
In the meantime, I know people are going to want to know where they can go to get their copy of Bunky, and also I'm sure they want to know more about you.
Thank you so much. So thank you so much. The Bunky and the Worms can be obtained on my website, alexandratrinetska.com. It is on my publisher's website, whipfriendstock.com. It is on Amazon. And also it is in, actually all major internet bookstores. It is also in Walmart. So I invite all the readers to reach for Bunky and the Worms. And, about me, I'm an academic teacher. I specialize in the Victorian literature and in the 17th and 18th century literature as well. And yeah, so it's my passion. I have a lot to do with books, with writing and reading, and I think it makes me very fortunate.
Yeah. Well, we've had a wonderful time speaking with the author of Bunky and the Worms, Alexandra Trinetska. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Bunky and the Bunky Princess. And thank you so much for reaching for my novel.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation with Alexandra. Before we invite Charisse into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is also brought to you by Theodore's Plate. Beautiful, beautiful children's book by Stephen Wade Nebgen. Theodore's Plate is a sweet and heartwarming tale of a young boy and his family who experienced the Christmas of a lifetime, all because of a single act of generosity. Set during the Renaissance, characters like kings and knights, and even a very special falcon, will engage and excite young readers. And you're going to love it too. Written by Stephen Wade Nedden. As a loving tribute to his late wife, Theodore's Plate is sure to warm the hearts of all ages, all throughout the year. It's a timeless story of hope, kindness, and love. Enjoy it with your family today. It's Theodore's Plate by Stephen Wade Nebgen. Join us right now from beautiful Cambridge, Massachusetts. Our guest is here today to celebrate a really cool video. It's called 1 + 1 = 2. Please welcome to the show, Charisse Zarunian. Hey, Charisse, how are you?
Great, Jed. How are you doing?
Really wonderful. I'm really excited to have you on the podcast. A mutual buddy of Charisse and I, Luch, suggested that we talk to each other, and Luch is a great guy and a great judge of character and of talent. And I said, of course, we would love to have Charisse on. And I'm excited to have you on to tell us about this 1 + 1 = 2. I'm really intrigued by the subject. Tell us all about it, please.
Yeah. So the 1 + 1 = 2 was originally a stage play that I wrote when I was a teenager. It started out as when I was like 16 or 17. It started out as a novel. That's what I wanted it to be. But I found that I was having a hard time. And now, of course, now that I'm older, I write more fiction. I've kind of switched a little bit. But back then, I was having a really hard time with writing settings and stuff like that, and anything that was not the dialogue the characters were having with each other. So it was a bit of a struggle. And I said, you know what? Why don't I just make this a play? Because I was in a lot of I did a lot of plays in high school. I did tech crew for a little bit, but I was mostly an actor. And I decided, why don't I just do that? And I kind of wrote it as a high schooler with high schools in mind. I thought it'd be great if schools performed this. I'm going to talk a little bit about what 1+1 is 2 is about. So the original stage play, the main character's name is Marielle Morin, and she is, in the stage play, which takes place in 1968, she was 28 years old. She was a stay-at-home mom. She's a wife. She's married to a high school history teacher. She has a 6-year-old daughter, and she was not really allowed to continue her education when she had to drop out of high school at the age of 14 because she was, though she didn't know back then, there was no such word back then, but she was dyslexic. And today, that's what we would have diagnosed her as. Back then, they just said she was stupid or dumb or illiterate. Those are all terms that come up in the play for historical accuracy. So she had to quit high school. She got a job working in this local supermarket where she was not treated very well by the boss or some of the people who came in. She was ostracized a lot for disability, just like she was growing up with her family at home. So it was basically not an easy life for poor Marielle. And so now in 1968, at 28 years old, this is when the disability rights movement, in terms of special education, really kind of started to grow legs. And it was doing the research for this book was kind of hard. There's not a ton written about it, but back then, only 1 in 5 children with a disability were allowed to go to school, and the rest just had to stay home or something, or were institutionalized if they were, pretty severely off. And but at the time, in 1968, there were some rumblings of change starting to happen. So Marielle, after reading a newspaper article that her sister-in-law wrote, her sister-in-law works for the Globe, about people across the country lobbying for kids with disabilities to have equal access to public schools, she decides to create a grassroots movement in her home city of Cambridge. And she gets parents together from other cities and towns in Massachusetts who have kids with disabilities and have been trying to get them into the schools with no success or little success. But she becomes so obsessed with the cause because and this is what makes her complicated, she's a benevolent person at heart. She really is. But part of why she's doing this is to avenge the way she was treated growing up. And so it's almost like now she wants to be on top now. She wants to have some control. She wants to have some power. So now she's totally throwing everything she has into the cause. And so I kind of wanted this to be a look at what happens when someone who has been on the bottom for so long and is fed up with it tries to be on top, tries to gain power, gets one taste of it and is instantly hooked and becomes like so into it that they get tunnel vision.
Interesting. It's fascinating. I was growing up in that period of time and was got into human services 7 years after 1968 and in 75. And remember when Massachusetts was the first state in the country to pass what at that time was called Chapter 766. And it's interesting that there's so many things that are interesting. Number one, that we're still fighting this fight, that we're still, while access to education is much better than it was in 1968 when, as you said, many kids with disabilities were institutionalized in some really horrific conditions. Right. But we're still fighting to make sure that every kid has that access. It's 50 years later, and we're still fighting. The other thing that I find really interesting and intriguing is this notion of the oppressed becoming the oppressor. I'm curious, because you certainly were not alive in 1968.
No.
Probably not even thought of at that time.
No.
What drew you to this period in history?
Well, the music is one thing. I'm half joking there. No, I really do but I'd always felt connected to the 60s in a weird way. Like my boss likes to joke that I'm secretly 65 years old because I like music from that time and stuff. But I felt like it was a safer choice to have this take place in 1968 than it would to just have this be a total, contemporary piece, because again, some of the conversations they were having back then and some of the stuff just wouldn't really, I guess again, yes, we're fighting the same fight, but things are so much different now that I think that for the sake of drama, there wouldn't be quite as much to, I feel like when you set something, I feel like setting it in that time where there were like little to no rights. And then as opposed to setting it now where there are some rights, but still not enough, I feel like it would have been, I don't know, I almost feel like it wouldn't have been, I feel like it wouldn't have done justice to the people who lived through that time. I feel like it's a really overlooked period in history.
One thing I wanted to just check with you, because I know that you're working with kids in an after-school program. What kind of things are the kids that you're working with reading these days?
So a lot of them, I work with 3rd and 4th graders primarily. So a lot of them really like before that I worked in a middle school, a few months ago with 5th and 6th graders. And they are all over the Wings of Fire series. I believe I don't know if that's Rick Riordan. I may be getting the author's name wrong. Someone out there is going to crucify me for that. I hope I'm getting it right. Anyway, they like the Wings of Fire series. They like, Harry Potter is an enduring classic, it seems. But they really like, what's another one? They like, some of them gravitate towards the R.L. Stine Goosebumps. It's like a kid's series. It's kind of like scary stories for kids.
Yep.
They like a lot of those. And, so that's what I'm noticing. A lot of, fantasy-oriented stuff.
Hey, Charisse, where can people go if they want to find out more about 1 + 1 = 2, either the stage play or the pilot, and also where they can go to find out more about you?
Awesome. Glad you asked. So the stage play 1 + 1 = 2 can just be found by searching 1 + 1 = 2, Charisse, Sharisse, Zerunian, Zeroonian, just everything all in one bar. That's a stage version. And if you would like to see the pilot, you could type all that same stuff except an Amazon Prime, or, you can just find it through there. You can also find, I'm sorry I didn't mention it, I wrote a kid's book on autism a while ago. It's called Francie's Brother, also self-published. That you can also find, if you search my name on Amazon, like for 1 + 1 = 2, you'll probably find it in there as well. And if you want to just learn about me, you can go to Twitter at Charisse Naomi. This is my middle name, Z, and the S in Charisse is capitalized, as is the N in Naomi, and then the Z in Z. Or just search my name on Twitter. And on Instagram, my handle is Mediterranean_homesick_blue.
We've had a really fun time speaking about a lot of different things today with our guest, Charisse Zerunian. Hey, Charisse, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, Jed.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Yevgenia Nyberg. She's returning to the show to celebrate her new book. It's called I Hate Borscht. That's the next episode of the podcast. Hey, I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to start by thanking our guest, Charisse Zerunian. Please be sure to check out 1 + 1 = 2, a great film available on Amazon. We also want to thank Alexandra Trinevska. Please be sure to check out Bunky and the Bunky Princess. Want to thank our sponsors, Julie Whitney. Check out Astro the Lonely Airplane. The books by Judy Wiggle will bring some magic into your life, especially her book, Magical Words. And of course, please check out Theodore's Plate, the wonderful, timeless book by Stephen Wade Nebgen. My crew, my team deserves a big thank you. Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Nicole Belcastro, Ashley Contreras. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank my buddy Luch for introducing me to Charisse. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.